Let's get started. A very warm welcome to each one of you all to this very interesting session. Get the best return on investment on your cloud hosting. This is Rakesh Ravikumar. I take care of the business development here at Sigma. And I'm sure this will be a fascinating and a worthwhile session for all of us. Without any further delay, let me introduce our speakers for the day. First up, we have Neeraj Gupta. So Neeraj heads the entire e-commerce practice here at Sigma. And I truly admire his passion for his new and emerging technologies. So he's been in the industry for over 25 years now, and he's held positions at companies like Dell, Motorola, Infosys, and L&T, to name a few. It's great to have you here, Neeraj.
Thanks, Rakesh.
Yep. We also have Pradeep Shah with us on the panel today. So Pradeep Shah is known for his skill in software development processes and architecture for over 36 years. And he's the co-founder of luroConnect, a modern e-commerce architecture built for the cloud. Welcome, Pradeep.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me here.
Yeah, you're welcome. So before I hand over the session to Neeraj and Pradeep, so let me give you all a quick overview of what Sigma is all about. Sigma has been in the industry for over 18 years now, serving as a trusted IT partner globally. So we are headquartered in Irvine, California. With 6 global offices, we are a team of 400 plus technocrats, and Sigma is certified Adobe Solutions partner as well as a Shopify partner. And we are honored to have delivered over 250 plus e-commerce projects till date. And from a quality and security standpoint, we are an ISO 9000, 27000, SOC Type 1 and Type 2 certified company. Yeah, over to you, Neeraj.
Thanks, Rakesh, and good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining in. So just to set the context, like we've been working with various e-commerce platforms like Adobe, Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce, and BigCommerce. We've come across many problem statements like there are issues with the image delivery, like how do we deliver the optimal images during our e-commerce journey. We also came across like various things like how do we increase the conversions? We came across the problem statements like people want mobile app, but they don't have kind of a big budget. So how do we enable the mobile app for our e-commerce vendors? And also there are many other things like various searches are also there because search is a very important part in e-commerce journey. So during that, our journey of e-commerce implementation, we came across many problem statements. And to solve that, we have made multiple partnerships. As you can see here, we have multiple kind of partnership which we have made. So in today's session, we want to kind of focus on the issues related to the hosting. And we have our partner luroConnect. We have Pradeep from luroConnect to take us through the journey, like how can we optimize the cloud implementations for the e-commerce. So moving on. Yeah, so Pradeep, you want to talk about luroConnect?
Sure. Yeah, so luroConnect is a managed hosting platform. We come basically with 3 key areas that we help hosting with. One is performance, the other scale. They're 2 different things. So performance is what you can squeeze out of a single hit without any traffic. And we help that by tuning caches, services, and so on. We also do scale. Right, so that's the response your website gives when there's traffic on the site. We take care of that as well. And the third key area is security. Obviously, as an e-commerce site owner, having a secure website is extremely important, and we take care of a lot of things such as DDoS protection, IP blocking, bot detection and blocking, and so on. But in addition to these, we also have a 24/7 support service running. We also have a dashboard which monitors performance metrics, security logs, and application logs. In fact, the dashboard is also an alerting dashboard. So if any of the parameters, exceed certain thresholds that have been set up, alerts are generated, and our engineers can look at it and try and figure out how to fix it. And then we also have a great control panel, right? So the control panel is used to run common tasks such as indexing, that may need to be run, right? Connie.
Yeah, thanks, Pradeep, for the introduction. It was quite helpful. So, like in today's webinar, we'd like to cover like 3 key points. Like one is how do you get best ROI from your cloud hosting. Second one is like how you can own that particular cloud, because many times there are providers who kind of tie you with their own hosting. So that Pradeep will talk more about that. We'll also talk about the automation, because luroConnect platform comes with our CI/CD pipeline built in, so which is very helpful because we ourselves have done multiple implementation where we have utilized luroConnect services and for our customers, and it was quite helpful in all those areas to kind of optimize the cost and have the right ownership with our end clients for their cloud hosting, and also the CI/CD pipeline, which is very much important for the development team to make sure like code is rightly managed and it's deployed whenever required. So we'll go through each of that in more detail, and Pradeep will talk more about that. Over to you, Pradeep, to talk about the first point about the ROI.
Yeah. So I'll talk about ROI to start with. Actually, the entire webinar is driven towards ROI. So, but the key aspect of what is ROI, why do you need it, right? So when it comes to hosting, one of the key questions that merchants of Magento websites have is, why does my hosting cost always keep going up, right? And there are some reasons that we've identified. 2 of them highlighted here are the key problem is, what is the size of your server, right? How do you decide what should be the size of your server? And is there a way by which you can optimize that size? The other problem compounding the size of the server is that almost all hosting providers charge almost 100% kind of markup, sometimes even more, on the raw cost of infrastructure. So you're basically, as you grow your servers, you're also increasing the markups that you give to your hosting providers, right? So luroConnect presents a new approach to this. What we do is we split the cost of infrastructure from the cost of managing it, which means that it allows you to reduce the costs of infrastructure or manage the cost of infrastructure, at the same time not increasing the cost of managing it, right? So let's look at these points in a little bit more detail, right? So the first problem that I mentioned was, what is the size of the server, right? Nobody knows that to start with. And as a merchant, you're always feeling the risk that a campaign that you might start may, cause your server to go down, or the traffic that you're sending to your server may actually not work out, may not convert well enough because the servers are slow. So you always have a tendency to say, make mine a large one. Now, question is how large, and that's precisely the problem. Okay? Yeah. Is there a better way? Yes, the better way is called scaling, right? And let's look at the different types of scaling. There are 2 types of scaling. There's vertical scaling and there's horizontal scaling. In vertical scaling, you increase the size of the server as and when you need, and probably hopefully reduce it, right? When we talk about scaling, we always talk about scale up and scale down, right? So you may reduce it, such as, at times during the day when you do not expect traffic, and then increase it when you expect traffic. The other is horizontal, where you do not actually increase the size of the server, but you add more servers to the mix, right? Let's look into some details, right? So the vertical scaling, adds more CPU and or memory to an existing server, while horizontal scaling will add more servers. But the key thing is, if you just add servers, that's not going to help your traffic until you have a load balancer in place. So you got to then load balance this, right? So as a result, increasing the size of the server, that is vertical scaling, is a pretty simple operation, right? And on the other hand, horizontal scaling is extremely complex. So why are we even talking about horizontal scaling? And let's look at the other points which really emphasize why horizontal scaling is a very good option, right? The first one is that you cannot auto scale, right? So in vertical scaling, so I want to increase the size of the server. It's not possible to automatically increase the size of the server, right? Yeah, and the reason why you're not able to do that is because it involves downtime, right? So every time you scale up, every time you scale down, let's say you just got traffic, let's say your Facebook campaign just started doing very well, you cannot automatically shut it down and increase the size of the server to allow this new traffic. Horizontal scaling, on the other hand, will add a new server with literally zero downtime. I mean, it's not near zero, it's actually zero downtime. I can just add a new server, launch a new server, my load balancer is configured. I can just add the server to the load balancer and start serving traffic. More importantly, when the traffic goes down, I can, as smoothly as I added the server, I can remove it, thereby giving you both scale up and scale down. Yeah. So vertical scaling, has this problem that you need to guess what size you want to get to. Horizontal scaling is dynamic, so you really don't have any guesswork in the size of the server. Of course, you need to, if let's say you're doing an automatic scaling, you need to tune the parameters to say when it auto scales. The decision of auto scaling is always, it's an involved process and needs to be done right. Once done right, you can dynamically add new servers almost to no limit, right? The other thing is vertical scaling is extremely expensive. In this example, which is taken only from AWS, and there are similar examples from other cloud providers. On AWS, you can only double the size of the CPU. So you can go from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 and 64 and so on, right? So it sort of multiplies by 2. Yeah. While in horizontal scaling, you can add servers. So you can go in increments of 2. So you go 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Which is addition of 2 rather than a multiplication of 2. And as a result, it's extremely cost effective. We've had customers come to us and go like, see, my server's already at 64. I don't know what to do next. If I cannot afford the 64. 32 was great in terms of cost. I cannot afford the 64, but even 64 doesn't seem to be sufficient during peak traffic. What do I do? Well, get to horizontal scaling. Yeah. And that's the difference luroConnect brings in. It is the architecture, which is a horizontally scalable architecture, right? But this architecture presented here, it's complex. We don't need to get into the details. The key thing is it's got 3 layers. It's got the web layer at the bottom, the application layer in the middle, and the database layer at the top. It's the application layer that's the area that we can auto scale very easily. The application layer is shown to be both PHP and Node.js. So you may have a headless stack, in addition to the Magento, and all of it can auto scale for you, right? Thereby giving you performance without increasing the costs of your hosting. The other structures, increase the markups that they charge on your servers, right? And this is an example of Cloudways. You can replace with Cloudways with your hosting provider. You can talk to us and we can give you comparing examples of the size of the servers you have and what it might cost you just on raw on AWS. But this example sort of shows that there's a 2 to 3 times markup on a single server that you might buy at Cloudways on AWS, right? So, there's always a way by which you can reduce the cost if you were to go on your own on AWS, and we can help you get there. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. Thanks, Pradeep, for giving us the benefits of using the horizontal scaling. In a very simple term, it was quite insightful, and we see some questions flowing in already. So people are definitely finding it very interesting. Thanks for all your comments and inputs. So for our audience, we have a quick poll. We request each one of you to please spend a minute and participate in the poll.
Yeah, I think I have a very good idea of where this poll's going. There's obviously the high, the upper ends where the cost of hosting is maybe 50 to 75%. And if that's the case, you really need to talk to us or talk to somebody and fix that. Yeah, we expect that your cost of hosting, as in hosting bills, DevOps, time, and so on, shouldn't be in the 20 to anything above the 10%. It should be 10% or below, right? So I see that a majority of people are in the 10 to 25% range. Just imagine if you were to able to bring this down to the 10% or below, right? The amount of money you could save that you could probably fund into more marketing campaigns and so on.
Yeah. Moving on. Thanks everybody for your participation. Yeah. So as we kind of covered the ROI part of it in the previous section, we just want to talk more about what is the true ownership means here, right? So Pradeep will talk more about that and tell us the benefits of really having the cloud account in your own name rather than kind of tying it with your hosting provider. Yeah, Pradeep, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, basically by hosting on your own cloud, you're actually exhibiting true ownership of your code, right? Because there's no vendor lock-in. A typical vendor lock-in happens in your hosting provider by giving you, for example, annual discounts, right? If you sign up for the full year in an unbreakable contract, the original price was like 3x marked up. So there's ample space for them to, give you a good discount. And then midway through the year, you realize that you don't need that server, you need a bigger server or something like that. And you get back to them, maybe you upgraded the version of Magento and you wanted to change something. And you get there, and then what you find is that the hosting provider says that, hey, you have the contract, we'll allow you to break the contract if you sign a new one starting today, right? So basically you have a permanent lock-in into your hosting provider because of this, right? You cannot use, now let's focus on actually the ROI part of it, right? If you were on your own on AWS, you would have been able to use savings plans that AWS gives you, right? So if you were to, sign up with AWS or GCP or Azure, I'm using AWS as a generic cloud provider example, but every cloud provider has plans whereby you can actually save based on some commitments you might give for the infrastructure, right? And luroConnect will help identify such opportunities and talk to you about them, right? So basically, by having very little vendor lock-in, you're only locked into the infrastructure provider, you can have a lot of savings on the infrastructure, right? The other important aspect that I see is that by, you're either on open source or on Magento Enterprise, you actually own the code. And if you own the code, then the best way to exhibit that you own the code and your complete control over your e-commerce website, okay, is by hosting on your own cloud account and exhibiting that ownership, right? If you host with us, that is, we help you get to your own cloud account. Our contracts are always month to month, and you can cancel anytime, right? So there's literally no risk in and at the end, even if you cancel, the key thing is like we leave your website in a working state, right? So you can easily hand it over to somebody else, for example, who has the capacity that luroConnect has, for example, right? Just give you a little bit on the infrastructure costs, right? We've all seen our cell phones become more powerful, right? Yeah, costs of cell phones have gone up because of features that got added rather than the cost of the hardware going up, right? So what's happened is that there is a running rule called as the Moore's Law, which basically says that the cost of hardware will go down over a period of time. It has been proven true for decades, and it's expected to continue to prove true even now. That is, newer hardware may be either more powerful at the same cost, or will be cheaper with the same power, right? So the cost of hardware actually goes down, right? So why should your cost be going up, right? So by choosing the right infrastructure, you can do this. Example, AWS bill, right? In March 2020, just around the pandemic, they came to us saying that their hosting bill had reached about $8,000, and due to the lockdown and other things, it was getting a little bit too expensive for them. They came to us and we rehosted them in April 2020. In July 2020, their AWS bill was $3,000 odd. Last month, June 2023, the bill was $3,000 odd. In this period, this customer has seen a 10x increase in their sales. Now, we're not saying that it was all that their hardware is exactly the same as before, that all the savings were due to hardware savings. The customer did invest in technology. They moved versions of Magento, in this time. They invested a little bit more in technology to make sure their code was better and so on. But at the end of the day, when they look at their hosting bill, they see that the bill hasn't changed. And this can happen for you as well. Yeah. I also have a quote from AWS saying that this was a quote taken 2 or 3 years ago. So as of April of that year, AWS has themselves reduced price 107 times, right? And we've actually seen this happen and continue to see this happen. Newer hardware comes in, newer types of instances come in AWS and Azure and GCP, and they are actually cheaper than the previous, right? You get faster disks, for example, right? All of this helps you actually in reducing the cost and increasing the speed. So a lot of times what happens if you're on horizontal scaling, your code runs faster, you need lesser need for that extra CPU to run your website. This is saving.
Yeah, thanks, Pradeep, for covering this one. And we ourselves have seen that where we got free credits for some of our customers from AWS, because AWS time to time keep running some of the other programs, which we can always leverage. And as Pradeep humbly said, like we can kind of move out anytime, but in our journey working with luroConnect, we had not seen any customer kind of moving out of luroConnect hosting, and they're quite happy with the way the whole thing was managed. So though the contracts are month to month, as Pradeep just mentioned, yeah. So we just want to collect the feedback from our all the audience regarding the previous section, like how the cost of the hosting has kind of gone over the period of time. So please participate.
Yeah. So seeing, roughly half people saying that their costs are in line with the traffic growth, and the other half saying that the costs have grown disproportionate to traffic growth. Actually, even if it's growing in line with traffic growth, is it going in line? For example, the example that I gave in the previous slide, which is like close to flat. So what is going in line with traffic? Okay, your hosting costs should hardly change as your traffic grows, right? It may not be like no change in 10x, but 1x to 2x, that kind of traffic growth should be easily absorbed, with very little change in the cost of hardware, right? Yeah. So moving on.
Okay. Yeah, so as we've covered like the ROI part of it, like how you can get best ROI with the horizontal scaling, we also talked about how you can have the ownership of your own hosting account, how you can get free credits and other benefits. Now we'll talk about the very important kind of part, which is very much relevant for all the developer community to make sure like we have a CI/CD pipeline and like the deployments are very easy. There's no downtime and stuff like that. So Pradeep will talk more about that particular capabilities now. Yeah, over to you, Pradeep.
Yeah, thanks, Neeraj. Yeah, so again, automation is extremely crucial. CI/CDs are extremely crucial. And more importantly, when done right, they actually help you improve ROI on your Magento websites. So what does CI/CD do? The key thing that the CI/CD should do is reduce your downtimes during deployments, right? Get to near zero. So there's Magento has will need at times to take a downtime so that it can do some database activity. But apart from that, there should be absolutely no reason for a deployment causing any downtimes, right? The other thing is that you can have staging environments, which deploy the same code as live, allowing you to test the code before you take it live, right? And there are repeated tasks such as indexing, which if automated, will reduce manpower hours, right? So let's just get into the zero downtime deployments, right? Magento actually allows, and they have documented as such, that the builds can be done in Docker without a database, right? So we use that, and then that allows us to just deploy, and not just deploy going forward. You can even roll back a deployment, right? So you made a deployment to live and figured that, something was missed in testing and you want to go back to the previous version or one of several previous versions. You can just click a button and just deploy the older code and you should be live with the older code, right? So basically, getting zero downtime deployments is very easy and it should be done in every Magento website. The other one, as I mentioned, having a staging and live environments is extremely crucial for making sure that the code that you're going to take live has been well tested. There's a process that you've followed to make sure that the code was deployed on staging. And if it works on staging, you have a guarantee that it'll actually work on live because it's exactly the same code that you're taking and deploying on live, right? This helps improve ROI because, well, imagine what would happen if you were to deploy some code and then hit a problem and not actually even have a way to roll back, right? So there could be downtimes, right? This prevents downtime and thereby improving the ROI of a website, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Pradeep, for covering that. And there's a quick poll here. We request all our participants to please provide your feedback. So based on your interest, our team can connect you back. Okay, so this pretty much covers all the three sections. We can go to the next one. Yeah, so we pretty much covered all the three parts of that particular section. So as more questions are coming in, so Pradeep, you want to summarize what we have kind of learned so far? Yeah, Pradeep, please go ahead.
Sure. So basically, you can actually, there is a way to improve the ROI of hosting for your e-commerce store, right? And the key answer is in horizontal scaling and scaling, right? There's advancements in CI/CD technology, which can help making sure that your code deployments are smooth and do not have downtimes, right? As well as infrastructure updates tend to make it cheaper rather than more expensive. So there's absolutely, if you're seeing your hosting bills go up, please talk to us and we can help you reduce your hosting bills.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rakesh, do we have questions? You got to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Neeraj and Pradeep. So we have a few questions. We won't take all of the questions, but we'll take a few of the questions in the interest of time. So I see a few interesting questions. Let me pick up this question. It's from Dan. So he's asking, you guys only optimize the cloud hosting costs or you help in improving other aspects of performance as well? Our store is on Magento.
Yeah, so let me answer
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Mhm.
so yeah, so it's like if it is about, see, again, the hosting cost is like as Pradeep explained, there are multiple factors to that, but at the same time, code should be efficient code. We should be kind of running it right. So we as a team in Sigma like make sure our code is of the highest standard and it follows Magento or Adobe standards, so that it's optimal code which is running on any server and optimizing the cost. So that is one way of definitely optimizing the overall hosting cost, along with the other thing which Pradeep has talked about in this presentation.
So yeah,
Yeah, just to add
yeah.
to what Neeraj says, there are tools that can be added at the infrastructure level, which can then be fed back into.
I think Pradeep, you went on mute. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can move on.
Yep. We have another question from Eric. So his question is, which platform is best for a B2B come B2B store?
You mean a B2B and B2C?
Yes. Which platform is the best for a B2B come B2C store?
Okay. So there's no kind of a single answer to this, like the Magento or Magento open source or Adobe also provide the B2B and B2C capabilities. At the same time, other platforms like Shopify also provide that capability. So we need to understand like what are the exact requirement which you have, and we will be happy to suggest like which is the right platform for your business, current and future business needs. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Neeraj. Eric, I think we will get in touch with you and get more details on your questions, and we can surely help you on this. And let's pick up one last question. And the question is from Josh. And he's asking, I'm on Adobe Commerce Cloud Pro plan. So do you have any suggestions for me? How can you help me?
Yeah, Josh, if you're on the pro plan, there are certain things that, if you were to, Adobe allows you to be on enterprise, but not hosted on the Commerce Cloud Pro plan, right? And there are some advantages of moving out, and we've got customers who actually moved out, getting these advantages. So first and foremost, Commerce Cloud Pro, right? They've added options now at an additional cost to do some scaling for you, or do some auto scaling as well, but doesn't come out of the box for them, right? It's more or less designed for automatic failover rather than scale, right? So scale is just an add-on afterwards, right? If you were to manually try to ask them to scale, it takes them about 30 minutes to even, according to their SLA, it might take up to 30 minutes for them to add additional capacity, right? Yeah, you might be paying them more for, managed services on top of the Commerce Cloud Pro plan, right? So I think some of these things, if you were to look at, there might be reasons why you can be yet on enterprise and not be on the Commerce Cloud Pro plan. Some of the CI/CD stuff that we do, which is including rollback, that's an option that's not available on the Adobe Commerce Cloud plans. So you get some additional benefits as well, right? So, but yeah, I hope that answers your question. If you want to discuss this, please get in touch with us, and we can figure out your situation. For some people, the pro plan is perfect, and there's no need to, right? But for others,
Yeah. So yeah, so if you have any more questions, you can always reach us. You can just shoot us an email, or you can just connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And we would be happy to help you with any of the queries you have. And also, we will be sharing all the replies for the questions we've got here, and we'll be sending it through an email to your email IDs with the recordings. Well, thank you very much, Neeraj and Pradeep. This was a very insightful insightful session. And nevertheless, I'd like to thank all the participants for being a wonderful crowd. And well, we may have come to the end of this webinar, but I promise we will be back with more and more sessions, more insightful sessions, which will help you stay ahead of your competition. Yeah, well, have a great day, everyone. See you all very soon.
Thanks for joining in. Yeah.